Good morning, guys. So I was wanting to talk about the purge today, and I am also tomorrow or within the next few days. My week's been pretty busy. I will do a video answering the questions that people have been asking me on YouTube. A lot of people have been commenting, and instead of replying to those comments, I'm just going to answer them in a video. And okay, the purge. Let's talk about the purge. Now, I used to believe in the purge personally. I even made a whole ass video on the purge because that's what I was taught on my own journey. Was if you receive the opposite, it's simply the old story purging, and I believe that in a way. I feel like the purge is mental. We can have a mental purge 100% when we're shifting our identities from old story to new story. The old story is going to continue playing out until we make the new story dominant. But I used to believe that in the physical reality, not just mentally, the physical reality, the 3D, that things had to get worse before they get better. That if you receive the opposite, it was simply the old story purging. But that's no longer what I perceive it as. If you are persisting in a new assumption and you're seeing reflections and breadcrumbs of the old story showing up still, even though you are choosing a new identity, you are persisting in a new identity, in a new assumption, but you're still receiving a little bit of the old. It's just because where we are making the new story dominant and we are choosing a new identity, we may perceive what we currently see in the 3D as a purge, as the opposite of what we want. So pretty much it's not that the opposite is happening. We are just perceiving it that way because we are actively changing who we are identifying as. We are actively changing our assumptions. We're persisting in a new story. So keep going, okay? Because just because you are seeing unfavorable circumstances doesn't mean it's not working. It does just mean that the old story is still being reflected some because we still have a little bit of belief. We're still assuming certain things to be true, and that's okay. That's why we need to persist in the assumption until it hardens into fact, and then it will no longer experience any of the old story anymore. I know I've talked about this in a few other videos, but I've had circumstances where the opposite did happen, and I was very confused. I was like, what is happening? I would be talking with the SP, things were going amazing, and then all of a sudden I was blocked, and I was like, not really sure what happened. We were talking, things were going good. It's because I was still assuming that this is too good to be true, that he's probably going to ghost me again. That's all it was. I was still, a part of me was still, I was persisting in the new assumption, yeah. But then I was still placing my awareness and still at times thinking that he was going to ghost me. So that's what happened. It's not that the opposite happened. I was just persisting in the new story, but I still had a bit of assumption that he's going to ghost me. And that's what happened, and that's okay. But now with my first conscious manifestation, with my SP, that took 11 days, I received a bit of the opposite. I didn't even know what the purge was at that time. I had no clue what it was. So before I even knew what the purge was, I experienced it. And it was, I got my SP back. He had contacted me. I got the manifestation I wanted for the most part. Like, he had reached out. We were in contact. That was amazing. And then he kind of ghosted on and off for about 3 days after that. We had talked all night after he did reach out and I got contact. And then I was still thinking, that is this really happening? This seems too good to be true. Is the cycle going to repeat? Like, is he going to ghost me? So I had to kind of become aware of that and catch that. And that's when I was like, no, that's not what I want to persist in. I don't want to persist in he's not in contact with me anymore. I want to persist in he is in contact with me and we're together. So that's what I chose to persist in once I did become aware of my mind going back to the old story that I no longer wanted to experience. So just be aware of what you are consciously thinking. It's not a purge per se, it's just your assumptions being reflected. But I have also experienced the mental purge with that SP manifestation also. So before I got the contact that I wanted, I was, doing the whisper method, and I was affirming that we're together, blah, blah, blah. And on the last day, on the day that I got my manifestation, I kind of got upset because I did very well become aware of the lack. I was definitely focused for a little bit on he hasn't contacted me yet. Like, I was literally thinking it's been almost 2 weeks and he hasn't reached out yet. What's going on? That video said it was supposed to, it would happen quickly and easily. So I was just kind of mad and frustrated, and I was frustrated at him also for not reaching out. So yeah, I was just very frustrated. We were in contact for our child, not because of anything other than that. If we were in contact, it was solely for the purpose of communicating about the child. No more, nothing more than that. So, I did kind of go off on him, but he didn't really take it as me going off on him. But I did kind of try to take my frustration out on him in a way, which is something we tend to do. We get frustrated and then we're like, why ain't you talking to me? Or why ain't you contacting me? Don't do that. That's not what I did. I was just like, I didn't say anything like that. It wasn't anything out of the ordinary. It was just about our child. I was mad anyways that he had lost one of her shoes. And I was like, you know what? I'll just keep her until you find that damn shoe. How about that? So, yeah, and he was like, yeah, thank you. So that made me even more mad in that moment that he was like, yeah, thank you. I was like, no, I'm mad. I'm mad at you, but he didn't really realize that's what was going on. He thought I was just trying to be helpful. So, yeah, obviously that even pissed me off even more. So after that, I was like, I'm just not going to contact him anymore right now. I don't really have anything else to say about anything at all. There was no movement whatsoever, so that was also kind of frustrating. Like, there was nothing. It was just silent except for our communication about the child. Hi, baby. So, I ended up crashing out pretty hard, I'm not gonna lie. And I wasn't worried that this was going to affect anything. I was just mad. Like, I remember thinking and saying out loud, like, this is stupid. Maybe doesn't even really work. This was stupid for me to believe in. Like, I was just kind of going off out loud and in my head. And afterwards, I did feel a lot better. And so I do absolutely take that as a mental purge. It's not that anything opposite was happening outside of me. It's just that my ego was very loud in that moment, pretty much. My ego was definitely shooting me a lot of doubts and worries. And I definitely crashed out because of that, but that's okay. I feel like that is definitely what helped me to I take it as like an exorcism of the old story. Like, I definitely exorcised that old story out. I purged that old identity in a way. Things that may have been keeping me in the same cycle, repeating the same cycle. So that definitely helped me. I felt a lot better afterwards. So after I felt better, I did go back into it was like time for bed. Okay, I was like, I'm going to bed. I still didn't feel the best, but I did do the whisper method again, and then I was like, still didn't feel the greatest, but I did try to get back into the state by doing the whisper method again. I was like, I'm gonna go to bed and I'll try again tomorrow. I will, tomorrow's a new day, so I'm gonna go to bed. I'm gonna call it a day, call it a night. Tomorrow will be better. So, and then like 45 minutes later, it was after 11 that he had contacted me. But he sent me that text that said, you've been on my mind a lot here lately, and I don't know why. And I was flabbergasted. Like, I was not expecting it, especially after a crash out. Like, I was not expecting it whatsoever. But after my mental purge, yeah, that's when I received it. I felt a lot better, and I feel like that definitely helped me maybe to get rid of some of the resistance I was holding on to, possibly. So, a mental purge, yeah, but I do not think that you have to experience things getting worse before they get better. Now, I do think if you believe in a purge, like if you assume you have to experience a purge for you to get your shit, then you will. I think that's what it is I think that's what it was for me too after that. Like, I didn't even believe in a purge at that. I didn't even know what it was. But then I learned about it, and then anytime I would get my manifestations, it felt like things got worse before they would get better. Anything can be an assumption. Anything. If you think you have to experience a purge to get your shit, okay. If you think things have to get worse before they get better, okay. Because I think that's a big one too. Like, people just think, I feel like I definitely grew up hearing that a lot. Oh, you have to hit rock bottom, and then that way the only way is up. No, thank you. I don't want to. I don't want to experience rock bottom to climb the ladder, to get what I want, to finally become the version of myself that has my desires. I personally don't want to do that, and I never want to experience anything like that again. And so I no longer believe in the purge, that things have to get worse before they get better. It is simply just your assumptions being reflected. Anything you are experiencing in the 3D is your assumptions, whatever you are assuming to be true in that moment. Now, the 3D is old though. And now you're probably very confused because you're like, what do you mean? How is the 3D old? But you're saying that anything we're experiencing in our reality is our assumption, whatever we're assuming to be true is being reflected. So let me try to break this down and explain it the best I can, because it definitely took me a minute to fully understand it. Also, sorry, I think I got cat hair in my eyelash. But whatever we are currently assuming to be true is what is being reflected. Because whatever you assume to be true will be true, and that has to be reflected. Anything outside of our assumptions cannot be reflected. Does that make sense? Like, if you are not currently assuming something to be true, then that can't be reflected. So if you are experiencing something, yes, you are assuming that to be true. But also, yeah, the 3D is old. And I've talked about this, I'm pretty sure, the last video also. So right now it's 2:10 p.m. for me, Eastern Standard Time. So 2:09 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is old. It's the past. You can shift identities that freaking fast. You can shift states and assumptions that freaking fast. You can. It's just that, people tend to have resistance. Now, don't tell yourself you have a lot of resistance, because then you're going to create more resistance. But resistance is simply the doubts, fears, worries that are coming from your ego. That's all resistance is. It's opposing thoughts that you receive. Don't identify with them. Don't entertain them. Tell yourself, that's my ego. Tell it to shut up. Tell it whatever you need to do. But don't identify with those thoughts. Okay, you can absolutely let them pass. You are not your thoughts themselves, but it's when you start entertaining thoughts that you start creating assumptions with thoughts. If you're constantly, your dominant thoughts are creating. Your dominant thoughts create assumptions, and your assumptions are creating this version of you, this identity. And so it all works together, but I have a whole video on that, so I'm not getting in that. Where was I going with this? I get sidetracked very easily. But yeah, the 3D is old. So yeah, like, it is old. Every minute that passes, okay, that's the past. The only moment that matters is the present moment, is the now. So yes, if you 1 second you might be thinking, oh, I don't have it. And then you switch to, but I do have it. Okay, well then that thought is in the past, where you said you didn't have it. That's no longer true for you. That's no longer valid. You're no longer going to experience that, as long as you stick to the assumption that you do have it. But that's the thing, most people don't. They're constantly going back and forth, flip-flopping, new story, old story, back and forth. And that's why I do like robotic affirming, because that's kind of what helped me stay in the new story. Especially, I know for me personally, and this might not apply to everybody, but I feel like it does apply to quite a bit of people. But if the old story is very loud, if the ego is very loud, if your default mode is set to the worst case scenario, then your mind is probably going to automatically go there, to what you're familiar with, to what's known, to what you're comfortable with. So that's why I like robotic affirming, because I would end up doing like a 10-minute robotic affirming saturation session. But then right after, my ego would be like, that's not going to do anything. That's not going to work. You still don't have it. So like, robotic affirming for me, that was my technique, because it was definitely a helpful tool to help me return to the state and try to stay in the state as much as possible, to shift into this new version of myself, shift into this new identity, create this new assumption. It's all the same shit, just phrased differently. But yeah, that's why I do like robotic affirming, because it definitely helps you stay in the state, return to it. You don't have to, it's not very realistic to stay in the state 24/7, but return to it. So if you do become aware of yourself going back to the old story, be like, oh, no, I don't live there anymore. That's not that version of me. I'm the new version of myself. I'm the new version of myself. I live in the new story now. That's who I am. That's who I'm deciding to be. That's all you have to do. So don't be afraid if you go to the old story. It's okay. Just whenever you notice it, redirect and reaffirm. Redecide that it's yours. No matter what you see in the 3D. No matter what you see in the 3D. The 3D is old. It is. Because time, yeah, I know. Time isn't real. It's not. In the 4D, time does not exist. In the 3D, time will pass. And just know that it's old. It's already happened. It's over with. You don't have to experience that shit anymore. Okay? It is old. But if you are experiencing something unfavorable, shift your awareness. Be like, oop, I don't want to experience that. Let me put my awareness on something I do want to experience. Oh, there we go. I have it. It's mine. It's done. Me and SP are together. I have the money. I have the house. I have the car. I have the health. I have the wealth. Whatever you want. Shift your awareness to what you want to experience. I think I explained that well, but if I didn't, you'd still have questions. I'll try to explain it better. But just know that with every, clicking second, every second that has passed, it is old. It is. So right now, if you experience, like maybe your SP just texts you and they say, I don't love you. Okay, 5 minutes later, you're still dwelling in it. No, I'm going to be like, he said that 5 minutes ago. That's old. That's old news. That's in the past. And I don't live in the past anymore. I live in the now. I live in the present. And right now, I'm deciding he does love me. He does want to be with me. And put your awareness on that. And look, he can text you back instantly once you shift your awareness and be like, oh, I didn't mean to send that. Oh my gosh, I meant to say I do love you, not I don't love you. Autocorrect is a bitch. It can really shift that instantly for you guys. It can. Just don't contradict it. Stick to a story. If you notice your awareness going somewhere you don't want it to be, switch it back to where you do want it to be. It really can happen that fast, I promise. It can happen at the snap of a freaking finger. Okay, but I do think that's it. If you do have any questions, feel free to ask me. Because I know it could be kind of... You're not going to be confused. You're not going to be confused. No, you're not going to be confused. You got this. You understand this perfectly, beautifully. But if you do have a question, I don't mind to ask it. If you feel like you need one-on-one coaching, my link is in my bio. And I think that's it. Until next time.